Hey, welcome to the 12 Cent Treehouse, where we talk about working in comics, film, and TV. I'm Sean McLaughlin. I worked in comics since the 90s, and I did a bunch of stuff at Warner Brothers on Batman, Superman, and stuff like that, and also write screenplays and edit screenplays. And with me, as always, is the inimitable Jeff Johnson, who cannot
Hi, everyone.
be mittable.
Yeah, Mr. Collins. Good to see you too.
Hey,
And
everybody.
Scott Collins. I thought I was going to hand it to Jeff and thought Jeff would throw it to Scott, but
Well, I'm imitable.
Jeff and Scott are here, and both of them are inimitable.
I caught it.
I've tried to imitable them.
Right. That's a word. I'm not going to name names, but I worked on a show once where someone kept saying like whelmed because they weren't overwhelmed and they weren't underwhelmed. And it was something the characters said a lot. And every time I had to draw it, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. This is so dumb. But
This was funny when we started the show 5 years ago, and now it's run its course.
Right, yeah. So anyway, I am very whelmed to see you guys. Oh, hey Scott. I see, Scott, you are showing hang on a second. How do we do this? There we go. Nope.
Almost. There it is.
The sketch cover I did for Scott, issue 1 of Rogue's Kingdom.
Woohoo!
And what is
Also-
Rogue's Kingdom, Jeff? And where can we
Rogue's
find
Kingdom
it?
is a book that I've been working on for a very, very long time, and is eventually coming out, one slow issue at a time. And it's about it's a swords and sorcery fantasy adventure about there you go, a couple of con men who trick their way into the royal family and pretend to be heroes, and they're not, but by pretending to be heroes they actually become those heroes. And it's sort of an exploration on the idea of character and destiny. Also, there's dragons and unicorns and swords and sorcery and stuff. So it's got a little something
And
for
there's
everybody.
dragons.
And there's dragons. So, and Scott, that is your book, Patra.
Yeah,
I love that
this is just stuff
character.
from my book as we're getting into our meat of it stuff. I always love to, use those moments to push any of our books or anything going on. Oh, including
Oh, nice. That's your shirt. Excellent. Good shirt. Hang on a second. We can do this.
there it is.
Yeah. Mouse Guard,
Guard.
such a great book. Yeah.
Great
I think
I love
stuff.
that book so much.
That's a good segue for our topic today, which is obscure characters, fan favorites, old school, ridiculous characters that maybe only we like. Not everybody remembers. Sean, you had the best of
I did?
Underwater Agent, Undersea Agent,
Undersea Agent.
with some great Gil Kane covers.
Yeah. And Gil Kane did some of the interior artwork too, but yeah, it was, I think we were talking earlier, I think it was Lee Elias mostly on the book, but I could be wrong. It was a
Right.
Tower book, which was a small company. They're more famous for Thunder Agents than Undersea
Mhm.
Agent, and Undersea Agent sort of came out after that, as I recall. Now, I don't know if anybody who knows me knows I had two brothers who were much older than me, 11 and 13 years older. So comics I had and comics they had get very mixed up with me, but I loved this. We lived on the water for a while. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with undersea heroes. That's why I was obsessed with Aquaman, which I wound up writing, and
Right.
like Namor and any underwater book got me. And as a kid at that period, you were underwater and you were an agent. You were a spy. I mean, what
That's
else
the coolest.
could you
That's so-
possibly want?
That's great.
That's really, really good. Yeah. And so some of the I looked at some of the interiors, and it had panther whales
Panther
attacking
whales.
a submarine. That is the greatest thing ever. That is so cool.
Awesome.
Somebody in some meeting went, "Hey, I read about a leopard seal. What about a panther whale?"
Oh, and it's brilliant. It's totally brilliant. Yeah. Well, and so who was this artist again, Sean?
I think it's Lee Elias, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. And there could be a couple different artists. The book looked now very Kniffy
Yeah.
type stuff. But later on, the issues that I remember having had those two Gil Kane covers, and they also had Gil Kane stories in them. So he was basically like Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon underwater. There was an evil villain who was trying to take over the world, and you had a chubby scientist with a beard, and our lead agent was Davy Jones, who was the undersea agent. And what they never show on the cover, besides all the monsters and stuff, was his secret weapon was his belt buckle, which could attract or repel things, and that was
fantastic. Underwater, that's fantastic.
Like magnetically, like how did it do it?
Underwaterly. And he had a gun. He had a sidekick named Scooby. And I just, I think about characters like that and that are so ridiculous. That's the monster is actually his sidekick who got transformed into the monster. And it's how we're going to save Scooby without killing him because he's destroying our secret underwater base.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Super cool. So what do you think it was, apart from being an underwater sea spy, right? Like that's already super cool. And being able to fight monsters and stuff. Do you think that's because you were an ocean kid, like a sea kid, that you thought like
I was a lake kid, yeah, but I had no concept of like the difference between a lake and an ocean or a sea. So yeah, I really liked anything that took place underwater. Aquaman at that time was bi-monthly, so it wasn't coming out often enough, and Namor was irregular if you could find it at all,
right?
Where we were. And for some reason Tower Comics came through up there great, and I also like this sort of like this secret headquarters under the water. They're doing research and they're fighting bad guys.
That big submarine.
Yeah, my dad was really into Jacques Cousteau, so we had to watch the Jacques Cousteau specials all the time. So it sort of dovetailed in with stuff that we were doing anyway. There's not a lot of character in these. I mean, you can see. I mean, if you've got a panther whale, like how much character do you need?
Right, it's done.
I love the nose.
Yeah, right. Like it's still like breathing through its nose underwater.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that it was just pure guesswork and pure imagination, and the desperation to be believable and realistic just wasn't a thing. And
well, that's funny is the little bit I did research looking at the book myself, the actual like normal everyday stuff when they were on their aircraft carriers or those other destroyer ships or different things at sea or whatever, that seemed all like extremely well referenced and realistically put through. But then you got that, and I'm just getting it now while you're calling it a panther whale. I'm like, but it's more of a shark. It's got fins like a shark. It's got a vertical fin, not a horizontal tail.
Right.
It's got gills. It's got gills.
It's got gills on the side. Yeah, so it's a fish. But
it's also got a cat nose, and cat ears.
Yeah,
it's genius.
It does. It absolutely does.
Pure genius. There's a great line.
Stuff, when I was a kid, that kind of stuff would really carry me away, because then I'd start thinking about, well, how did this work? And
exactly.
I'd get really lost in that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the good stuff right there. And then this thing, like Gil Kane, nobody had cool machines like, I mean, obviously Kirby, but back in the day, Gil had these almost like organic looking machines that just, I think, really stood apart from everyone's, because I don't think everyone did robots really, really well, except Gil did really great robots.
Well, and that was one of the things, is that Kirby was such a force during all that time that most people would wind up doing their technology either like him, or they do it like Wally Wood or those kind of golden age kind of artists, whatever going on. Gil developed and mastered his own style. He mastered his own style of almost like Kirby dots and energy reflections or different things on explosions. and his
Right.
technology. So Gil had his own math and all of that stuff. And it's great because he stands out for that, where a lot of people would fall into some other previous camp and Gil wouldn't do it, which was great.
Right.
And you look
Yeah.
at this drawing. I mean, as a kid seeing this on the stands, um, I, it's completely ridiculous. It's this undersea bug monster robot, but he's figured out how it works. I mean, look at where the joints are. Look at where
Right.
there are gears and stuff in there, and so it lends it an air of credence. And if you just look at stuff like the shape of the fingers, they're not blunt, they're sort of curled, so they're kind of like claws, so that makes it even scarier reaching out and grabbing it. And then that works with, if you look at the other feet, because those things are then in there digging into the ground to steady the thing, so it all
Right.
works together. It's all ridiculously well thought out for what was he probably getting in 1960 something, $20 a page,
You know,
$25
yeah,
a page.
he must have done
Absolutely.
at least 3 of those covers that day.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
And if nothing else, it looked like a really cool toy.
yeah. It's he's working out how it would work, and it's already designed for a toy because it's got the joints and stuff in it.
Totally. Yeah, no, that one's amazing. But one of the things I think is really interesting, so consistent, like there we can't tell if he has flippers, and here he doesn't have flippers, but here Gil went that extra mile and gave him flippers.
There's no continuity in this to the equipment at all, other than the belt.
Right.
The belt's like the things from King of the Rocket Men, you know, the nipple tweak fly Radar Men from the Moon serial. It's got the belt has on, off, attract, repel. That's it.
Sure. Back in the day when stuff had dials.
Yeah, it's a dial, right?
Yeah.
And but you know, and that makes sense too, because you know, when you're an undersea agent, you know, you got to be thinking about a lot of things. You don't need any complicated controls to attract or repel something.
Exactly.
And it's also geared towards kids. So it's like, well, how many controls do you need? You just need a phaser that can stun and can kill.
Right.
You know? Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a system, the old school system of machines where the machine did one, maybe 2 things, I think is so much easier dramatically and thematically than having, you know, like the tricord it was the communicator and phaser combo that threw me. I'm like, really? It's both?
Yeah. The last thing,
like,
you're not even you're shooting it like it's a remote control.
yeah, I'm like, come on, what? Really? But now everything is all the same. It's all one phone. It's all one, you know, it's your compass, it's your radio, it's all the things now. So this idea of a machine being one thing, that's analog almost by definition, right?
Right, and it increases the drama because there's only so much stuff you can carry with you. I mean, he's got a gun and he's got his belt buckle, and that's it. You know, sometimes he has flippers, sometimes he doesn't. It depends on whether the supplies come in. You know, whether they've made their deal with Converse.
Yeah, what do you have with them? I actually love the flipper thing. The idea of swimming underwater without flippers is dumb. It's so slow. Well, excellent, Sean. Fantastic. Fantastic choice. And I also really love the interior work. Like, I know that these angles are dull in some places and the colors are super limited, but I do think that he does a ton with black and white and with his line work. It's amazing, and his compositions are great.
There's a lot of storytelling, and like Scott was telling, look at the fish. The fish are obviously really well researched. You know, this is something that would be down there. I think this is the one that has the underwater flying saucer.
Perfect.
I think that's what's in that last panel, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Oh yeah,
there
that
it is.
thing.
There it is.
Yeah, that thing is super cool.
But even that squid, they did a good job. You know, with the reference you can find back in the day of a squid like that.
Yeah, they were looking at the Disney 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea over and over and over again.
I mean, well, honestly, you could go to the library or you could draw from memory, and maybe you had some magazines, but that was about it. Like there was no internet. I remember back in the day when we would be my morgue file was massive, and it still is, because I was told once that if you buy a book on tanks, you'll never have to draw tanks. But if you don't have a book on tanks, you're going to get a job where you have to draw nothing but
Right?
tanks. So I have books on all kinds of obscure shit.
Do you remember, were you at Warner's when we still had to go to research, when we couldn't just Google things on our own?
I was lucky enough to be, yes, I do remember being there at that time, but like I was a background guy, and so it all just got handed to me.
I'd have to fill out a form or have one of the production assistants fill out a form, and that would go in interoffice mail, taken over to Burbank. We had a research division that was just like a huge library, and they would pull whatever they could find from it and Xerox it and send it back to us like the next day in a huge envelope of paper that then would
Yeah.
would progressively get lost as the production went on.
Yeah, I definitely remember having getting a file of photo reference, from a job, and you're like, okay, here's all this stuff. When Scott and I worked on the Star Wars coloring books for the episode 1, we actually had to go to Lucas Ranch because they were so protective of any of that stuff getting out beforehand that they would not send it over the internet or not send you copies. And so one of the reasons we got the job, apart from being fantastic coloring book artists, is that we were close and willing to drive all the way out to the ranch. But which is the best thing in the world? We got to work in the carriage house. We got to be up alone up there. I sat at oh God, what the hell is his name? It'll come to me in a second. But Doug Chang was there, and so we got to hang out, but we got to watch him work. And then all the models were there, and there was a huge room that we found in the back where all the test toys or test models were. Like, oh, this is a cool Darth Maul ship, but it's a little bit different than the final version because they made changes. Yeah.
Well, and that one had all the pod racers, that first movie. So we had just saw tons and tons of extra sketches of pod racers or little toys of pod racers that kind of made the cut, but then didn't make the final cut or whatever. We worked on stuff during all of that where we spent a month ourselves just drawing these pod racers of different stuff. And we hadn't seen the movie yet. We'd just seen these reference pieces.
We just had
and
the
then
toys,
we remember when we saw the movie, we're like, hey, that pod racer lasted 2 seconds and it was destroyed.
Oh, yeah. It zipped on by. Yeah.
I think when Chaykin did the Star Wars, the first 4 Star Wars for Marvel, I don't think they were allowed to have any photographs. I think he just had to go to a screening and work from that.
Oh yeah.
Which is nutty.
Well, didn't John Buscema draw Wizard of Oz, the comic adaptation, after just seeing the movie once and just drew everything from memory? Isn't that the story?
I think he did. Yeah.
That would make sense. Yeah.
I hate guys like that.
That would be a legendary John Buscema thing to do.
Yeah, totally. That would be him. All right. Well, Undersea Agent, awesome. Can you find them? I found some of the stuff online. Is it the kind of book that you could find in a quarter box or a dollar box anymore, or is it so rare? Like, is it so old and rare you'd have to like really pay money for it?
I'm not sure. I think IDW did a reprint. I hadn't thought about it in years till somebody mentioned obscure characters, and this was an obscure one that I loved. I think IDW did a reprint of all Gill's work on it. I don't know how much they're going for now. Tower books are pretty pricey, as I recall. Somebody approached me about doing a Thunder Agents project a few years ago, and I had to spend a good deal of coin getting enough of those just so I remembered who all the characters were.
Well, you would, right?
Wood did a lot of it, yeah. But Leah
lots of guys in there, yeah.
Sikowski did Lightning, their speedster character. That was Sikowski.
Yep. And even the reprints of those books aren't cheap. The giant collections or whatnot, the hardbounds.
The ones that DC did in the early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah. I got one of those, but they ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's tough to collect old books. All right.
The cool thing to me about something like this is just how would you do it now that would give you the feels that this gave you when you were, I was like 5, 4, 3? 2-1. I was young when this came out, but you know, looking at it now, it's so ridiculous. You know, how could you do something like this that would still? I think a lot of the problems with guys like us trying to do stuff we liked as a kid is that we just kind of want to copy. I don't think anybody in this room does, but we just want to copy what was done before, as opposed to, all right, how did this make me feel, and how would I recreate that now?
Well, I'm definitely trying to recreate the idea of Hal Foster in the old John Buscema Conans, in Warlord in Rogue's Kingdom. I'm definitely trying to capture that sense of childlike. Oh, look at that dragon. Oh, look at that. Oh, he's sword fighting on a thing. Oh, I'm definitely trying to chase that high.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
to do something specific with Undersea Agent. I think there's just you might have to go a little bit more cutesy in its own way. I mean, that's the point, is that some of those, the panther whale and different things, they had the cute face, a little bit of cartoony thing going on. I think to get to the 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds of today, you just have to do that in a different fashion, where it would be like the Five Nights at Freddy's, or the Pokemons, or Sonic the Hedgehog. I think you just have to mix some of that in there as well.
It is an interesting topic. It is an interesting topic for discussion. Like, how would you take an old character who has a bubble on his head and flippers and fights undersea monsters, when now everybody just knows too much about everything? So there's no suspension of disbelief, becomes so much harder because we all automatically go like, oh, that's not possible. Do you think that's just the nature of us being older? Or kids still do that?
I think kids still do it. I think as long as you put something fun in there, that then they would glom onto it and they wouldn't care. Because I've seen some of their video games and they're insane. There's a cat that delivers pizza, and that's their video game, and it's a little bit different because they're playing the game. But it's the drama that goes on. Oh no, he lost the pizza down the side of a hill. He's got to go get it. I think that kind of subject matter, material, whatnot, could be transferred to other things as well, as long as you come up with a fun, compelling story that they haven't seen 100 times before.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you don't just do it and just don't address it. It's like, this is just the world we're in. That's it. If you can do Rogue's Kingdom in a world with dragons and stuff like that, we can do. I can do an undersea agent who has a bubble on his head and flippers that are also work as boots.
I think that's totally true. You just have to set it up, right?
Yeah, it has to be just it has to be part of a whole. You can't like try and tell like a, I don't know, who's the guy that writes the nautical, Clive Cussler. You can't like tell a Clive Cussler story for the guy with a bubble on his head, but I wouldn't want to tell a Clive Cussler story to begin with. So
I have enjoyed a Clive Cussler occasionally.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that I if I was doing it, I couldn't ape that.
Right. So let's move on. That's a great one. And I do think that that's an interesting one, and more of a kid's one. But then Scott chose Cerebus. And I think that is sort of almost the antithesis of Undersea Agent, but because it's so serious, but also it is even more cartoony because it's an aardvark.
It's this weird combination, at least for its time anyway, that I had never seen anything like it before. I had seen Cerebus on the stands when we started having comic book stores and stuff, but something about whatever cover's going on at the time just never really caught my eye, or whatever going on, and I was just like a Marvel DC guy. But then about the time that I started reading more Conans and doing more history stuff, so I knew a little bit more about Toth or early Kirby or different things like that. I was at the Kubert School, and a friend of mine brought over a Cerebus comic book and asked me if I was a Cerebus fan, like a bunch of them were. And I was like, and he gave me the book. He's like, read this right now.
Right.
And some of the image I sent you before come from that series that I read, a couple of them from that exact issue. It blew my mind. The level of sophistication and yet whimsy, funny stuff, crazy stuff. Yeah, that's one of the later pieces. But so the story starts, it's in the Melmoth sequence but the drama involved with all this, even though we have that cartoony guy. I mean, look what the cartoony craziness he did with his mouth just there.
Oh yeah, no, it's a full blown animated cartoon.
Yeah, it's just you're cheating like crazy about this sort of thing, even though there might be muscles involved or whatever else going on. But then the level of drama that was in this book was crazy. Whereas you're reading it for the trade paperback of, I don't know, the 10 issues or so of this one storyline. Half of the storyline isn't even about Cerebus. It's about another character in the story that's supposed to be like a love letter to Oscar Wilde kind of thing going on. And that he's old and he's passing away and this, that going on. Great stuff going on. But the Cerebus stuff, which is a minor play in most of the book, that image comes from the very last issue of the Melmoth sequence, which issue 150. So what happens is, it's just beyond cool stuff. Do you have the one where he's holding the doll sitting in the chair?
This one?
Nope. There's another one where, there it is. So he's sitting in front of this coffee shop at the beginning of the story. He has a gold piece or whatever, so he pays for a place to stay there, whatnot. That's the waitress that's there, who to everybody else in the book, she's an absolute terrible person too. She won't get their drinks. She yells back at people. She's just a mess. But to Cerebus, she's okay, and he doesn't really barely talk. That image right there is pretty much covers him. He was like comatose during the whole thing going on. Barely talked, barely asked for anything, didn't really interact with anybody. And then as you go along toward the end of the series, you find out that he's holding the doll of what he believes is his love of his life. And I'm Jaka. And he thinks she's dead.
Story.
Right. In the previous storyline, at the end of that storyline, he thinks she's died and something goes on. I forget what the details were, but he's holding on to her little doll there that's all dirty or whatnot. But he's just like, he's written off from life. He's not doing anything because his love has died.
Oh.
The end of the story is the other images that I sent you, where as he's sitting in front of that cafe, different people come by. Yeah, that's one of them. So different people are at that cafe. He hears different storylines going on. Most of it is kind of funny or nonsensical, doesn't do anything. But the women down there in all that covering, they're played as this really fascist regime that has taken over the whole thing. And at the moment, you're jumping all around them.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, there's no. I know you gave them to me in numbers, but I can't see the numbers.
I know. So while Cerebus is sitting there, the Cyrenists, those other warrior women, were in front of him. He winds up overhearing about a prisoner that they saw in a jail cell recently or whatever that they were dealing with, and what a pain in the ass she was. And we slowly get from their dialogue that Cerebus finds out Jaka's alive.
Oh.
And the drama told to it, everything else going on was just like really heartfelt and really played out amazingly well. But they talk about the fact that she was a terrible, whatever, annoying prisoner. That's just showing some great backgrounds. And then they talk about the fact that they delighted in torturing her. So then one of the other images earlier was that Cerebus then picks up his sword, almost like he's still not fully conscious yet. And then we turn the page, and then he starts just attacking those warrior women because they talked about how they were just mercilessly terrorizing this poor woman in the jail cell. And then if you think that drama wasn't enough, I was already like, oh my God, this is such a great story and it's so heartfelt. We cut to this after he's killed those two warrior women. This is an earlier scene, so it's actually funny that he has sort of a continuity thing going on, because you'll see that Cerebus's nose is long, actually like an aardvark's. That's how we originally drew the scene or whatnot. It'd be like going to, World War II Captain America stuff versus how they draw him now. Anyway, he's talking to a couple of buddies of his, and in the story they tell right there in this woods, which has some great backgrounds and everything going on with it. The buddy tells Cerebus, yeah, I knew a guy once who had killed this Serenist. And it's like, it was the worst thing in the world. He goes, they have like a hive mind. As soon as one died, 50 of them showed up. They didn't even kill him right away. They chased him down and kept cutting him. And it was this whole torturous thing. So the buddy tells Cerebus, you know what? If it happens that I ever kill one of these people, I'm just going to kill myself.
Yikes. So
now we've got suicide and different things in this silly little comic book going on. And then it cuts back to current day with Cerebus himself. And he has, you had that shot at one point, he has his own sword to his throat, thinking, there it is. he goes, should I kill myself? My friends told me, don't do anything if you've accidentally done this horrendous thing and killed these other people, just kill yourself because you're not going to, life is going to be over. And then it goes after that where a Serenus walks up to him, and there's another shot I sent you where then he just tears off, and that's the end of the sequence of the story. There was so much drama in this, and the backgrounds are so cool. And even though it was cartoony of, the Cerberus being there, or like you get these other pages where I'm showing you now where Cerberus is like looking at a pigeon or a pigeon's looking at him. So they're just these odd moments you would never get in a Marvel or DC book. It just blew my mind. So that's one of my favorite for obscure books or whatnot. And I may have read like the absolute best stuff geared for me in whatever way that it was at the time. Because I've read the earlier stuff and the later stuff, and there's some neat bits all through there. But then there's also plenty of bits that I wasn't as fond of. But for what I was going through at the time, becoming a better artist, maybe becoming a little bit of a writer and stuff like that, looking this book at the time was just boom, just threw me that comics could be way more than what I thought they could be.
Do you think
just the relationship between Sim and his work is clearly it was emotional, and he was telling these incredibly deep and almost sometimes painful stories, right? Like he was putting his heart on his sleeve for sure. But like, so was he always working with Gerhard? Did he do his own backgrounds at first, or did Gerhard do the backgrounds from the beginning?
It took till the second or third trade, I think it was High Society or during that time, that he ran across Gerhard, or they came across each other somehow. And Gerhard took over doing the backgrounds. Yeah, all these are really intensive, amazing backgrounds that could be really giant in a scope like that, showing the whole place, or all those backgrounds going on. Now, Sim would have done all the people there. Mm-hmm. And Gerhard would have just done the building in the background or that mountain back there, stuff like that. I know.
Right.
But Sim talks about the fact that Gerhard doing that allowed him to really focus and mature his artwork and writing much stronger, much faster than before. And see, that's the first volume, or the first volume of Church and State, which is second or third. And only Dave Sim is credited on the cover, even though these covers were done later. So the inside is just Dave Sim and not Gerhard, but he helped do that cover.
Do you think
it's interesting? Go ahead, Sean.
I just wanted to say, do you think the cartoony nature of, because I read these a long time ago, and I really enjoyed them up to a point, but do you think the fact that you have this cartoony character in a kind of realistic world helps the emotional impact of the storytelling?
Absolutely.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Because then they could totally cheat and steal and lie about people's attitudes, facial expressions, all that stuff. You could cartoon them, and they'd be so much easier to understand what was going on versus subtleties of a real face going on. But he could have, he was really good at getting those expressions in on the faces of anything, that would have been funny, wry, irritated, full on. Because when Cerberus turns at the end and he wants to kill those Serenists, the rage in his face was so murderous, so wrath-like. I don't think I'd seen anybody in comics that had that before. And I really got hooked up into that because, it was part of the storyline too, that you felt this wrath of that these other people were being just so ridiculously mean for no reason. Again, most Marvel and DC stuff, nobody got that mean in any sort of way. It didn't become that personal with a lot of the escapades that went on. It was much more of a game between Superman and Lex Luthor or whatever.
Right. Like people died and people were killed, but there wasn't like drawn out torture. That's intense. That's very mature, right? Like, so it's a cartoon drawn in a cartoon way, but with realistic backgrounds and other, believable supporting cast. The main character is clearly a cartoon. But dealing with very real, very adult things. So, and also like, this is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Just that crazy, it's also trippy.
Yeah.
Very trippy. There's lots of backgrounds and different things going on where they would do some really grounded stuff, but then other ones, either because Cerberus is tired, or he almost seems like he's going in another dimension for a minute, or actually hallucinating about stuff. There's lots of great stuff, because I think during this part and a couple other parts, he supposedly meets this one like judge of the universe, I think something of a love letter, maybe to a Galactus Watcher or whatever kind of character going on. But
Awesome.
he starts telling Cerebus what the rest of his life is going to be, or something like that, and just a bunch of It really it goes all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I missed these when they were coming out, and I need to go back and read, because there's 300 issues, right? Isn't it gigantic?
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere along the way, after he'd done like 50 or 100 issues, he came up with apparently came up with the whole arc of what he wanted to do, and it was going to last 300 issues, which was good enough for him at the time. And he said no one else up to that point had done that. I think that's been beaten now, maybe by Eric Larson on Savage Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, no one had even come close. I mean, Kirby and whatnot had done about 100 issues. Bagley did about 100 issues of Spider-Man. Kirby's was FF. But yeah, for the most part, nobody got to have runs that long on a character.
Yeah, 300 consecutive issues. That's insane.
Yeah.
And this was early creator-owned stuff too. I remember reading the Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes talking about holding this up for a long time as a paragon of what you could do on your own without going to one of the big twos. I remember I read it because of all the stuff in those magazines about how great it was, but it really sort of, when I got it, I was probably in my 20s, so I knew a thing or two, not much, but it really reminded me of Roy Crane's stuff, where it could be really cartoony, but also really dramatic, and it could swing from panel to panel like that. But he was using the elements of what we consider cartoony drawing, which is we have to come up with a better phrase than that, to tell a dramatic story, to tell a suspense story. And I thought this just took that and took it to the nth degree.
Well, I mean, he takes, in this particular shot right here, this is one of my all-time favorites, is that that lighting is not I mean, that's not a cartoony level of lighting. That is a realistic, well thought out style of lighting and ink work and line work. And then you mix it with the actual rest of it, with that giant background and that incredible reflection in the lake, and just the suggestion of skulls and bones in the composition, the background, the thorns and needles of the world around him. It's crazy.
It's also really cool in the fact that because it did run for those 300 issues, and I came in at about midway or 2/3 way through the storyline, but that's a cover that was done later, so it's visually it's much more stronger than the interiors of that time. I have that trade, which starts off the beginning first issues when Davison was just doing it by himself, and it was really like, I don't know how many actual comic books he'd drawn before he started this whole thing. He just started doing it. And this to me would be one of the few cases of a Western version of what you see from manga, where I've looked at other manga where you can see such a difference between the first issue that they worked on and did the whole thing, and then if they got to issue 100 or past that or whatever, thousands of issues they would have done, that the layers and complexity of the artwork would grow and grow and grow and grow. And this was that way too. Cerebus was very simple, very crude at the beginning, a little bit awkward, not necessarily, I wouldn't have, again, if I was a fan looking at that stuff at the time, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. But
one of my favorite things about this one, apart from the incredible architecture of that drawing, is the way that the warp balloons almost are hovering in the drawing.
Yeah.
They're almost sitting in the drawing in a way that you never see, and that I really like, that they are a character in the book, right? They take up space and they're not casting a shadow, but they definitely feel like they're sitting at a different level than the background.
Dave was also the letterer of the book. He won awards several times along from the whatever Eisners or different things as it went along. The lettering in those books is always a inspiration to me. I could never get lettering like that anywhere close to that in any of my comic books. They wouldn't pay for that kind of stuff. But the stuff he did in there was just, I loved it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. One of the things I love about both these books is that Undersea Agent really pushes the idea that you can use your imagination and you can draw whatever you want, and you can not be beholden to the idea of realism, and that's fun. And this book has some of the same stuff. The idea of realism is almost in your face, except for the main character. But then in this book, he experiments and he uses graphic design in a way that that when you're drawing, like, I feel like when I'm drawing comics, it just almost never even occurs to me because I'm just drawing the picture of what's happening. Um, and then I love an artist who can do so much more with a comic book page.
Well, but look at the craziness of this one. Actually, when I first looked at it and I sent it to you, I didn't even realize, but Shauna pointed out that that's the Three Stooges down below sitting in those chairs, right?
Right.
But then at the same time, you've got that kind of almost level of subtle goofiness going on. But then you see those big windows looking type things in the background. You see what's happening. The whatever, Jesus, somebody, whatever figure there. He's got a band. And in those three windows, they're telling a story. He takes off the band and he throws it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Dave would do that kind of stuff all the time, where it was just experimenting with the how to tell the imagery, where to tell it. There's other ones that I read that were really cool, where Cerebus and this other guy were in a conversation, and in the middle of the conversation, when you could tell things were starting to get heated and things were going on, and they didn't like each other, he would draw half the face as a pleasant face, like, "How you doing? Yes, I'm answering your question, this and that." And the other half of the face would be like an inset box within the panel. And the characters would usually be like seething, almost hellish, looking on fire. And they might even have an internal monologue at that time. While they're telling the guy, "How you doing? Nice to see you today." Internally, Cerebus just roasting the guy, going like, "I can't stand this guy."
Right.
And that duality and everything else I'd never again seen before or since.
Yeah.
How Dave would play with things like that no one would even try to pull off.
You know, it's a book that, again, I haven't read it in a long time, but this was not just someone taking work for hire and trying to do good Spider-Man stories. Dave had a worldview, and he was expressing it in this graphic novel format.
Yeah,
and it's a worldview that involves crazy things and involves scary things, and you know, I think Dave paid a price for it eventually. But this was really a major work of someone trying to express what they think life is like inside of this. And so, you know, you've got comedy and drama, and even the Three Stooges in this, they look like the Three Stooges, but they don't look funny. They almost look menacing,
right,
because they seems like they're trapping him there. And you know, he's being, first of all, the composition of this is fucking insane, because you've got all this stuff going on, but everything still leads to the Cerebus figure.
Right.
And, you know, it seems like they're like about to judge him or something.
Right. In the shadows frame him. This is like, this book definitely, and just even like hearing you guys talk about it and me studying it just a little bit now, just for the show, this seems to me like one of those examples of comic book art. Like, it's the art of comics. It's taken to that next level that, you know, I know this comics are capable of, and it's, as a medium, it's even sort of invites, but you don't often get to see it or talk about it, because it's rare that this level of expression finds its way onto the page.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
It was an incredible voice for a while.
So, Scott, have you ever drawn Cerebus?
Actually, no, I thought about that just as we were starting the show, that that's also, I could put that on the list of characters that I've never drawn. Even really for a sketch or a commission or anything else, I don't think I've ever drawn him.
He's fun. I've actually only done him once, and I did. This is me studying, trying to figure out how to draw him. And it took, I'll be honest, that took forever.
I know, you told me you were like working on it and crossing out and scratching and starting over and all that over and over again. Yeah.
That's just me figuring out. That's not even the sketch. That's not even the commission I did. That's just me figuring out how to draw him. It took forever to get his nose right and his expression right. And this was it was a team up between, there was a series between him and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they were all barbarians.
Wow.
And that's the piece.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was so much. He's so much fun to draw, but I really tried to at least capture a bit of the intensity of a Gerhard background and the shapes and the sense of the environment and the drama. And so, but yeah, this was actually one of the hardest commissions I've ever done. And when the guy asked for it, I went, "Oh yeah, that'll be fun." Wasn't fun at all. was not
Sure,
fun.
I'll draw 20 tanks.
It was challenging and rewarding, and I'm really happy that I did it. I had a great time doing it. But like, I jumped into a deep. When I took it, I didn't know anything about Cerebus, and I jumped into the deep end of the pool and paid price. That's
Cool.
definitely a price. Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's Scott's. And we're gonna move on to my choice, which is the Jack of Hearts.
Woohoo!
Yeah, this guy who is fun. He's just fun. I mean, he's just got a fun costume and he has cosmic powers, and he showed up way back in the day. He was created by Bill Mantlo. My understanding, he's created by Bill Mantlo and Keith Giffen. And then Dave Cockrum codified the crazy outfit. But there's just something about him that I always love drawing. I love the shape and I love the complexity of him. And I just loved a cosmic character who was dressed kind of like a Harlequin, a crazy cosmic coloring book in a way.
Yeah. And he's one of those legendary guys where, people joke about it throughout the industry or not, of like, actually having to draw him and put up with all the details and get him all in there and do all those things, or fans asking for commissions that, like Galactus and Jack of Hearts hold the crown of the most difficult character to draw for a sketch.
Galactus is super hard, but it's strangely enough, when I'm just drawing for fun, like if I'm just sitting somewhere and I'm trying to get the engine purring, I will draw Silver Surfer and Galactus, and a lot of times I will draw the Jack of Hearts because he's just
he's actually a lot of fun. If you're willing to give in to the thing and just do it, he's a ton of fun.
Well, one of the things I love about him
is that arrow doing?
It's pointing up. This side up, Sean.
I don't think there's ever any arrows on the cards usually. So it was a little bit of a different choice because so many of the choices seem like they're taking from playing cards.
Right.
But yeah, usually there's not an arrow pointing on a playing card.
Sometimes it's not on there, but most of the time it is. Yeah, well, I mean, listen, sometimes it's not on there. Sometimes you can't. Also, it's one of those things.
You didn't put the boot stuff on either.
I know. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get lazy. Yeah.
And you started to boot things down there.
Well, sometimes they don't fit. But look at that.
I remember when this character first showed up, and I remember buying the book and thinking it looked really cool. And that's literally all I remember. I know I had it. I know I read it. And I do agree he's really cool looking. But it's got to be. But this is the kind of stuff you like too, Jeff. You like detail like that adds something to it. Remember that background you did for the Dead Man episode of Justice League was like you might as well just go on.
all the statues and the candles and all that.
Yeah.
I think I discovered George Perez and then Winsor McKay early on. So there was something about and definitely Jeff Darrow. Like there's something about creating the entire world and putting in the pattern and being able to control the density of the drawing in a way to lead the eye. I really fell in love with. And also Escher, I think, I discovered him early on, and I just thought like, oh, look what you can do with layering shapes and lines. What kind of hypnotic. I always found this stuff hypnotic. So I love characters who kind of suck you into a vortex. And that's one of the things I love about this guy.
You put some Escher in Wonder Man, didn't you?
I did, much to Dan's chagrin. It was poor Dan. I handed him a 2-page spread.
When we torture our inkers.
Yeah, it was a 2-page spread of Wonder Man and the Enchantress and the axe guy, Executioner. And they were fighting in a almost an astral area where it was all made of blocks and staircases. It was basically that Escher staircase, multiple dimensional thing, but they were fighting in it. and so all the blocks of stone were crumbling and shattering. Poor Dan. I would have hated me if I was my inker.
He was trying to get that page done in a couple hours, Jeff.
Yeah, there's just no way. There's just no way. But once again, one of the things I love about this character, he's red, blue, and yellow. With
Yep.
some orange throw in. Like, he's all the primary colors, so he definitely pops. And there's just something I really love. Maybe this is one of the things I like about Superman too, though he doesn't do this as much as the cosmic characters. There's something I just love about a dude by himself flying in space. There's something
Agreed.
about that I can never get enough of.
And it's got to be, that's the other funny bit, is that it's got to be the space that, Kirby and whatnot, we've all invented in comic books, or even Wally Wood going back there, making it interesting space with Milky Way in the background, but cool stuff, extra planets going on,
Right.
comets maybe going by, black holes almost even, or, negative stars, or different things going on with all those backgrounds, versus if we really went into space.
Right. It's just nothing.
It'd be like next to nothing.
And one of the things I love about it is, like, so I fell in love with the comic, the 4-issue miniseries that came out. And there was just something about, like, yes, he's this cosmically powered guy, but then still had to fight a guy with a sword. Another card like
Well, you got to keep that knight something symbolism or whatever in there, because he's dressed up like he's a knight.
Yeah. He's got the chainmail.
Yeah. And the headpiece and all that stuff, and that it looks, slightly medieval or something like that.
Here's one of the pieces, Sean, we did that I forgot to get. I just love that underwater city.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's just this guy's that guy was a really amazing artist. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
so
pretty sure it's got to be Lee Elias, but I like I keep saying, I could be wrong, but you'll notice that the undersea agent's costume changes from page to page sometimes.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and bet that they never sent the next artist or the artist working on the book any reference whatsoever.
And they may not have even kept photocopies
He's got a
themselves.
bubble on his head. That's all you know. Belt buckle. Don't forget the belt buckle.
Gotta have the buckle.
So what
In fact, I'll bet you, Jeff, that sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'll bet you that Dave Cockrum got that credit on finishing up the Jack of Hearts thing, because I'll bet you Keith Giffen drew it different every panel if he drew the first appearance.
Yeah, I think that was in the interview I read. They didn't actually say that, but I think there was definitely the vibe of, like, come on.
Yeah.
what is actually happening here? But you know what? Here's the thing.
Knowing Keith, he laughed about it.
Right. And also, Cockrum loved those shoulder pads.
Yes.
He loved those, like, that flaring shoulder. He loved the loincloth. He loved a thematic design. Yeah.
It was the 80s, Jeff. It was shoulder pads were in.
They're the best.
Or even 70s for some of this stuff, but they love that stuff.
It was super early. Super, super early. Yeah.
So what was Jack of Hearts about, Jeff? Because I don't remember. What's his like cosmic power?
That's a good question. So
or something?
Yeah, no, he definitely. My memories of it over a kid. He definitely fought cosmic stuff, and he definitely had powerful villains. But I think one of the things I loved about it is, like, he wanted to be kind of a regular dude, and he had all these. He had this power and he had these responsibilities, and he had to deal with stuff. But my memory is that he didn't like it.
I think it was one of those things too, where I'm trying to think of another Nova. No, Nova had his own book.
Nova.
But somebody around that same time frame, Jack didn't have his own thing. He might have appeared in, like, Marvel Premiere or something like that first. I forget, but he didn't have an origin, I don't think, or not much of one.
Deadly Hands of Kung Fu.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But he popped around the Marvel Universe.
Yeah. He showed up in Iron Man and the Avengers. He bounced around.
He showed up in Hulk. So when I was reading the Hulk, at one point he fought an issue where he fought Jack of Hearts. It was like, but it was always like they were testing him out, seeing, are the fans going to respond to him? Yeah. And then if they responded, then let's do all the work and figure out the whole background.
And I think the suit is actually to keep him, like, he can't really control his powers, right? Like the suit, he has to wear that ridiculous suit, or else I think he blows up, or
Yeah.
he just can't control it. So um I just always loved I love the ever since Spider-Man, I love the idea of the cost of powers, the
Yep.
responsibility of powers.
Yep.
Um,
Marvel was
you know,
big into that.
yeah, and I just always thought that even something as cartoonish as the Jack of Hearts, he had to deal with the damage that he could do and the responsibility of being of being a citizen or being a human or being a man or being whatever of being a hero. It was never easy and it never seemed like it was fun to be responsible. Um, and so, I mean, it's one of the things that you can, as a kid, you're reading, and especially as a kid, when we were kids who had tons of responsibility and we're all on our own, like it did not glorify being a hero, or being Spider-Man or Jack of Hearts or Newskin did not glorify being an adult, right? It did not candy coat the fact that you were on your own. And I definitely
Yep.
think
Yep.
as Gen X, early Gen X, that was the message in a lot of our media is like, hey, suck it up. This isn't easy. I mean, yeah, you might be able to do whatever you want or go wherever you want to do it, but the costs are high.
What I really liked as a tween and a teen in the Marvel stuff was that these books were half superhero but half civilian life. It wasn't just a
Mhm.
couple of panels or a page of the civilian life. That was a part of the ongoing story.
Yep.
And that, that was really important to me.
Yep.
The characters were believable. Like you could tap into their lives easily enough. I started reading Spider-Man when I was a kid, and him going, like the fact that he was going to school made him so relatable. I'm like, oh, and being a nerd, being a little kid, dealing with bullies, and just having that fantasy fulfillment, that wish fulfillment of like, oh,
Yep.
I could kick the shit out of you, but I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then all the dates he would maybe go on or not go on or have this
Right.
fight or that fight going on, whatever. It wasn't the deal with, Lois Lane or half even the TV shows or whatnot we'd watch at the time that was like it was hunky dory. Everything was kind of happy moving along.
Right.
No, all that stuff. Peter Parker, the FF, most of them, I mean, that became like the Stanism through most of them of, that they would have life problems. They would have rent problems. They would have job problems, girlfriend, boyfriend problems, whatever it was.
Right. Human problems. Well, I have to say,
Heart problems.
right. Yeah, exactly. I
And
do
power
think that
problems.
now I want to read all these characters again. Like I want to read. I want to go back and dig up my old Jack of Hearts. I have them somewhere. Like dig
Yep.
them up, and I definitely want to read U.S. Agent. And now I'm scared to read Cerebus, but clearly I have to.
Or even look for some of these books at the next Comic-Con show we go to or something like that.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just as a heads up, next Sunday we won't be having a show because Scott and I are going to be at the Sacramento Con. And I will be looking for some of these books. But if you happen to be in the Sacramento area, you have to be at the show, come by and have us sign stuff and talk to us and tell us ideas that you might want for the next or upcoming episodes of 12th Century House.
And Jeff will have issues of Rogue's Revenge or
Rogue's Kingdom.
Rogue's Kingdom, and I will have issues of Patra.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, can I see what you were drawing? What is that?
Oh, so this last thing I was drawing, I was just drawing a headshot, whatever. But while you were talking about Jack and his powers and everything else, I was going to try and quickly do a demonstration of Gil Kane's energy effects versus Kirby's Kirby dot thing. And that's important. That's another fingerprint for the artist to have on there in their special effects or whatever they're doing. The way they do their musculature, the way they do their shadows. But Gil was one of those guys that I give so much credit for that in an age when everything was pushed much more towards Jack Kirby or maybe John Buscema or maybe Steve Ditko, Gil had his own niche of doing stuff. He had his own technology and tech doing stuff. And then he had his own energy effects too that nobody else used. It was really him.
Yeah, I always thought of Gil Kane's special effects as kind of like, or that particular bolt as, because he would do lightning, but that particular energy bolt always seemed like plasma to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The stuff from Green Lantern's ring always looked like it was coming out, being made from something that had some heft to it and not just light.
Yep. and that it was
Yeah,
like being
yeah.
formed. It didn't just appear. It came out of some like plasma, whatever kind of energy source, something. Yeah.
It had a thickness to it and a body to it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. All right, gentlemen, that's our time.
I just
Woohoo!
got one thing to say.
Yes.
Last night of the Twilight, my film is premiering on YouTube 3/20. If you go to twilight.com, you'll get the link to it.
Excellent. Yeah, I love it.
The award-winning Last Night of the Twilight.
Excellent.
See?
It's really good. I mean, honestly, I saw it when you made it. I was part of the campaign. I think it's fantastic, and it also was. It's unexpectedly kind and gentle and heartbreaking.
Yeah,
So
I was seeing a bunch of that in the trailer that I saw. That it had all those different kind of layers to it.
Yeah, it was it's just a great body. It's a great piece of work, my friend.
Thank you. Well, everybody can see it starting the Friday.
Excellent.
Woohoo!
Nice. All right. Well, so no show next week, but the week after we will come back with another episode of 12 Cent Treehouse, where we all talk about our love of comics and animation and whatnot.
Woohoo!
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.